This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back, team. Very good morning and good evening. We'll get into another week of sessions today. Okay. We were discussing about the AWS storage volumes, and today we will be doing little focus on the storage volume concept, and we will be having a little deep dive, right? Understanding the different EBS or the different storage volumes and the respective scenarios around it. Okay. So as we speak, right, there are two type of the storage volumes that are currently right available for the EC2 instances, the EBS volumes and the instance store volume. We already talk about the EBS volume, the elastic block store volumes, right? Uh, right. So let me, okay. So go ahead and create an EC2 instance, and I'll cover up the scenarios here. So we have seen how a default root EBS volume will come to the EC2 instance, and how we can create additional EBS volumes and attach them to the EC2 instance. How do we use them to store the data? That is where we have seen creating the file system, mounting the file system, adding the data, right? Looking at the utilization of the file system, all those scenarios, right? So at least we are good in the EBS volume, right? And if we go to the another type of the EBS volume, that is the another type of the storage volume, that is the instance store volume, guys. We will not be using this instance store volume right in the real time much, but it's worthy to have a quick note on this. Okay, again, wherever we need a deep dive, I'll be going in depth. Wherever we don't need that much of skill, having a little basic is enough. I'll be only touch base with that. We need not to spend time on that, right? So I'll be driving the efforts in that way. So let's say I'm creating an EC2 instance on the AWS cloud on the respective availability zone, and you see it, guys. I have got a EC2 instance. To this EC2 instance, there is a inbuilt volume came. Okay. So previously, when I shown you the EC2 instance, it was just a instance logo. Now I could see that there is a volume that come inbuilt right to this instance. This volume is called as a instance store volume. So when we are creating an EC2 instance, obviously, right, the default root EBS volume will be created. That is mandate, because the root EBS volume is used to store the operating system data. So all of the EC2 instances that we are creating are supported for the root EBS volumes. Additionally, some of the instances are come with the instance store volume. So how I can make the difference between the EBS and the instance store volume, right? So let's talk about one general scenario to understand this, because most of you not having a familiarity with the virtualization. So I'm just giving the example in general. Let's say you have purchased a laptop. When you purchase a laptop, you will get a inbuilt hard disk in it, correct? So just think of like the default hard disk that comes along with your system, which is already pre-built in, right? So which is already physically attached to your system. That is called as a instance store volume. Whenever you need a additional storage capacity, sometimes you even purchase a additional USB hard disk, and you can attach the external USB hard disk to your system, right? That's where you can use the additional volumes as well. Maybe you just think of like the additional external, right, the volumes that you are attaching to the system, or the EBS volumes. That is how you can understand. So When you are creating a server, the server comes with a default internal physically attached volume that is called as a instance store volume. Any volume that you create explicitly and attach it to the server, the external volumes are called as a EBS volume. That is how the difference, guys. Okay, so we can create any number of additional EBS volumes and can attach it to the server, not a problem. But the instance store volume is something you cannot create explicitly and attach it to the server. Why? The instance store volume are by default come with the EC2 instance, which is called as a hardware attached internal storage capacity for your EC2 instances, right? So the one tricky here to understand the data that you are storing into the instance store volume is not the persistent data. Is mean that not persistent is mean that the data is not going to be stored permanently. Whenever your instance is going for the reboot, automatically the data that is stored into the instance store volume will be wiped off. But the data that you are storing into the EBS volume is the persistent data. Even though your server is stopped, terminated, rebooted, you detach the EBS volume from your server, right? In all these scenarios, your data will be still safe in the EBS volume. But in the instance store volume, that is not the case. The data will be not persistent in the instance store volume, so that means that data is a temporary. So that is the main difference, guys. And again, if for some reason the instance store volume, even in the backend, that is also a hard disk, right, in the respect to AWS maintaining availability zones. If that hard disk is gets corrupted due to some hardware issues, your data is lost. Why? The AWS is not going to replicate your data across your availability zone. So this is how the differences between the EBS and the instance store volumes, right? And it says that there is no snapshot facility. That means even you cannot take the backup of the instance store volume, right? And something like that. So when the instance store volume is not persisting your data, then what is the use of me using this volume to keep the data correct? Of course, still we can see that these instance store volumes are optimal for storing the buffer data, cache data, temporary data, correct? Any data that you feel is a temporary data that I don't need to be persistent permanently, then that type of data you can keep in the instance store volumes. Maybe the buffer data, maybe a log data, maybe any temporary data that is getting generated by your application. That kind of data can be keep in the instance store volume. Why can't I keep that kind of a temporary data in EBS itself? Yes, you can, but this is the additional feature that the AWS is giving. Why? The performance will be very good in the instance store volume compared to the EBS. Why? The instance store volume is the internal volume to the server. So the IO operation, the input and output operation to the instance store volume will be good compared to the EBS. Why? The EBS volume is the external volume that is attaching to the server. Because the performance is good with the instance store volume, we will be using them to keep some buffer data. Obviously, the buffer data is the temporary data only, right? The buffer data or log data or other data which you feel not require, right? Or there is no business loss even though my server gets rebooted, even though my data gets corrupted on that instance store volume. That type of data that you need to keep in them. Any data you feel very uh, should be persistent, very business critical, that data should be stored into the EBS volumes. So now if you go to AWS Management Console to create an EC2 instance, right? So click on launch instance, select the AMI, and in the instance type now you see that there are multiple instance families and the instance type, the combination of processor and memory capacity, and you can see the instance storage, right? EBS only, that means this particular instance type will support only for the EBS volumes. If you do a little scroll down in this section or in this column, somewhere you can see 1 into 75 SSD. That means this particular instance, right? This particular instance will come with one instance store volume of 75 GB capacity. That is how the uh, instance store volumes are available only for a certain type of the instances, not for all the instance types. If you go for this instance type, let's say, you will be getting two instance store volumes of the size 300 GB each. So these are the internal volumes that comes automatically for your server, which are now those are called as a instance store volume. Additionally, yes, the same way how you work with the EBS can attach additional EBS volumes as well to them. So this is how it is. Okay, wherever you wanted to get the instance store volume, you need to pick up the one which is supporting for the instance store volumes, guys. Right? So for example, okay, maybe I'll take one instance type, right, which is supporting for the instance store volume. I'll get one volume of size 50 GB capacity. Go to the next, go to the next. This is where you see the difference, guys. Okay, you will be still getting a root EBS volume to keep your operating system data, that is standard. Additionally, now you can see one more entry which is now called as a instance store volume. The instance store volume, the default naming convention is little different, guys. So previously we have seen it as XVDA. Now you can see that the name is something called NVMe0N1. Don't worry whatever the name that is getting. So we just need to use the same name, that is what it is configured for your volumes in the server. Correct. So that is how you get a additional the internal inbuilt volumes. It's called as a instance store volume, guys. You cannot create a additional instance store volume. You see, when you go for the additional volume, you can only create a EBS volume because these are the external volumes that you can create and attach to the existing EC2 instance. Of course, right? So even you can see there is no delete on terminated option for the instance store volume because that is hardware attached one. Obviously the volume will be get deleted, right, when you terminate a server. But the additional EBS volume, we can take a choice whether the volume should be get terminated automatically or the volume should be still available though the server gets terminated. That is how you get the flexibility with the EBS. Because the instance store volumes are storing the temporary data, which you can lose the data after the system gets rebooted, right? So we will not be using them much in the real time. So we will be using only the EBS volumes to store our data, right? So I think I really don't need not to go ahead and create this server because once the server gets created, only thing is I can see two volumes, correct? The other one is the instance store volume. The way how you use this instance store volume is still same, guys. Once you know logged into the server, you can create a file system on this, mount it, and start using the data. Good. So that is how it works. Now Yeah, so just answering to the question that I get it, yes. When the instance gets rebooted, yes, the data that is stored into this particular instance store volume will be get deleted. Well, so that is the reason we should be having a clarity what type of data that we need to store into the file system which is mounted on the instance store volume, right? That's how it is. So now I'll just go on the create a ESIT instance as usual, right? I'll go with the t2.micro instance type, which is allowing only a EBS volumes. I do not get any instance store volume. I don't need it as well, right? We don't use much, okay? So I'm just creating a server quickly. I just want to allow only the port number 22 for now. I'm allowing it from anywhere as of now, but remember guys, it should be a custom in the real time. We should give the organization provided IP range here, right? So as of now, let it allow from anywhere, launch, attach the key pair, right? And now it's like a very quick to create the instances in the AWS cloud, right? So once the instance is provisioned, then I will be logging into the server. But the thing here is maybe I require a additional EBS volume to store my business data. So I'll show you how to do that again. So this instance is currently created in US East 1C availability zone. Obviously, right, I need to create a volume in the same availability zone, right? So let me do that. Then I will be logging into the server, guys. Create a volume, right? Now you can choose the volume type here. By default, it will be GP2, but you can use any one. So mostly in real time, it will be either GP2 or IO, right? These are the two types that we will be using in real time. We will never be using the other three, okay? So these are the very old technology. The performance will be very bad if you use the cold HDD or HDD under the magnetic standard. These are the old technology, right? We will not using them. If we use so, right, the backend, right, what technology that the AWS has to use to create the volume for you will be vary. So it will give you a very least performance. So either you use the GP, right? So if you use the GP type, let's say GP2, right? You see guys, the IOPS, this is the input output operations per second. This is the disk, right? When it is a disk, right, then what we do with the disk? We will be either writing the data or we will be reading the data, correct? So that is called as a input and output operations per second. That is how we calculate the speed of a volume. And you see, if you go for GP2 type, you will be getting 3 IOPS per GB. This is the performance that we can expect from these volumes. That means for 1 GB capacity disk, you will be getting 3 input output operations per second. In 1 second duration, we can do 3 operations on the disk. Either it could be a input or reading the data, right? So that is how the performance of this disk is. But maybe if you go for GP3, okay, this is where you can see the difference, right? The IOPS value is now changeable. You can customize as per the requirement. If you go for the GP2, let's say the IOPS is fixed, right? You will be getting 3 IOPS per GB, and this value is not editable. But if you go for GP3, the IOPS is editable. You can specify the amount of the IOPS that you are expecting. That is how you can give your own value, how much performance that you are expecting, guys. That's the difference. Even if you go for the IO1, right? you can get the option to edit your IOPS value. The minimum you will be getting this much IOPS, the maximum it supports for almost 25,000 IOPS per second, right? So the goal here is you need not to remember these values, guys. The goal is based on the type of the EBS volume that you choose, pricing will be vary, the performance will be vary, right? These are the two things that you need to remember. So how exactly the performance will be vary, what are the values, you need not to remember them. So whenever you need it, you can just come and look for the values. That's it. Anyway, so now only the GP2 is part of the free tier. So I'm going to create only GP2 type and let me specify the capacity. I'll go for 5 GB, right? Now I'm just choosing the availability zone, which is 1C availability zone, because my instance is deployed into 1C availability zone. Now let me create a volume. We already did this, guys, but I'm just doing some repetitive today just to make it more summarize. Now the volume is created, which is in available state. Of course, it is in the process of creation. Let me refresh, right? Now the volume is in available state. Let me select the volume, accents, attach the volume, select the EC2 instance from the drop down and simply attach the volume. Now go back to the EC2 dashboard. Now take this server, take the IP address. Let me logging into the server. So now let me specify the key, which is PPK format, as I am using the PuTTY. If you are using the different way of logging into the server, you need to use the PPK or PEM based on the compatibility that it accepts, right? We are already familiar with that. EC2-user is the username. Let me switch to the root access. Good. I can verify the volumes that are available using LSBLK. We are already now good that by default XVDA1 is the partition in the XVDA disk, which is mounted on the root file system. Now, if you want to make use of this disk, you need to create a file system, correct? So mkfs-t, the type of the file system /dev/xvdf is the absolute path of my volume, and let's say I want to mount it on, sorry, yeah, let me create a file system first. The file system is now got created. Now I want to mount it on a specific directory. Let me create a directory. Right now I can do the mounting. Mount/dev/xvdf is the volume that I wanted to mount on /data file system. I can verify that using the df command. Now the /data is mounted on xvdf and it's around 5 GB. Okay, you cannot see the 5 GB exactly, guys, right? So you can see something less because the the rest 200 MB, right, may be using for the internal purpose to store the file system related metadata or the structure. Okay, so when you are creating a file system, I'm using the type of the file system. There are multiple type of the file systems are there: ext2, ext3, ext4, xfs, like that. Again, we need not to worry about the type. As of today, the latest is ext4, which is in general use. So whatever the type of the file system you use, the concept is same, only the difference comes in the properties. Like in this file system, in this disk, what is the maximum size of the file that I can create, right? What is the maximum size of the file system that I can create? That some internal changes will be there based on the type, but not measure, right? So,
Uh, yeah, yes, so I have one question here. Sorry, yes.
mhm,
In on-premises servers, if you create this file system like this, we have to add the entry in the FS tab like this. But in the
correct.
cloud environment, no need like if you reboot
That
the
is still
server,
same. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, you can go on mute as well. So that is still be the same. Okay. So now when I enter into the Linux, right, this is just a Linux machine for you. Don't worry about whether it is AWS or on-prem or something else, right? So it is now a Linux system. The OS works as the same as like your on-prem or something else. So you still be adding it to your FS tab. There is no difference in that. Well, now my goal is I want to put the data into the disk, guys. So obviously we know that we need to go inside the slash data. That is where you can see the right the thing. Now when you go inside a file system, by default you can see something called lost plus found, guys. So that is the default behavior in the Linux. This directory will be there by default on the file system directories. Okay, so the lost plus found will be storing some rpond files and directories. Okay, so what does it mean by rpond? As per the Linux hierarchy, right, any file or directory should be linked up with the parent, right? For some reason, if there is no parent but still there is a directory, then that type of directories are called as a rpond directories. That information will be located here, guys. We don't need to worry about again. Anyway, our scenario is I want to create some files. So let me create a file. Let me keep some data. So this is the data added to slash data file system, right? When it is mounted state. Save the data. So currently I just have created a file. The file is in slash data file system. Slash data file system is mounted on the XVDA, right? XVDF disk, right? You can see that the slash data on XVDF, and my present working directory is slash data. Now what I do is I'll just unmount it for some reason. You unmount the slash data. Now tell me guys in the chat window, can I see the data in the slash data location? The F1 file that I created, right, sometime back? No. Why? Now the slash data is unmounted. Now it is pointing to the root file system, not uh, the the one which I created just now. Correct. So when I mount it, then I can see the data. So here I'm proving that when you unmount the file system, you don't lose the data. Your data will be still safe on the volume. Whenever you want to use the data, again you can mount it. You see, mount command slash dev slash xvdf, and you can mount it. Second time, when you are mounting, there is no rule that you need to mount it on slash data only. You can mount it in anywhere. So now through this mnt directory, I can access the data which is available on this volume, correct? Now tell me guys in the chat window, what is the data that I can expect in the mnt, right? The mnt is now showing you your f1 file. Now under the mnt, if I look into the content of the f1, yes, it is still be the same data. Previously I have added to the slash data file system, but again when you are keeping the data into the file system level, that is exactly not storing into the directory level. That is the actual data is in the disk. So previously the disk was mounted on slash data, now it is mounted on slash mnt, correct? So this is just to make you clear understanding how the file system works, guys, but in the real time usually we will not be changing the mount point, just to make avoid the confusions here. Good. So now, as of now, my file system is MNT and it is mounted on the disk, and it is holding some data as we see here, right? So in the real time, right, sometimes your data may go for the corruption. Someone may delete this file unexpectedly, right? Or for some reason, the data is overwritten with some other extra information which you don't want. Something will happen. So now this is the time to look at how do we take the backup of the data available on this volume. The backup is the general terminology. As per the AWS terminology, it is called as a snapshot. Okay, so how do we take the snapshot of this volume? When you take the snapshot of the volume, all the data that is available in this volume will be taken as a backup, so that tomorrow if something happened to your data, it is still be possible to restore the complete data, right, as a volume. Of course, in the real time, we need to take the a snapshot of the volumes in very frequently, mostly a weekly backup, a daily backup, monthly backup. That is how every project they have their own life cycle. So if you have a weekly life cycle, for example, then maybe every Friday you will be having a task, right, to take the snapshot of the volume. So if for some reason if something has happened, it is still be possible to get my data back. So I'll show you now how do we take the snapshot of the volume. Go to the AWS section, go to the volume section, select the volume which you want to take the snapshot, and go to the actions, and you can see the option here, create a snapshot, and specify the snapshot name, maybe the snapshot taken on November 15. This is just a timestamp when you have taken the snapshot. It's easy, right? If you have the timestamp in the description, it's easy to understand when the snapshot is taken. Correct. So yeah, give the description and click on create a snapshot. Now you see, guys, the snapshot is started. I could see this information here. In this drop down under the volume, there is a one more option called snapshots. If you click on this snapshots, now you can see that the snapshot is getting created, and this is the snapshot description that I have given. The snapshot also has a snapshot ID. The size of the snapshot is 5 GB, which is equal to your volume size as of now. The snapshot status is pending. That means the AWS is still taking the data, right, or taking the backup of your volume. Once the snapshot is completed, now I can see that it is completed and it is available for use. So this snapshot is holding all the data that you see in your disk. Now let's say I'll go to MNT, which is your disk. Let's say I'm deleting the data, guys. You see, in my disk nothing is there now, right? In my disk nothing is there. So for some reason or unexpectedly I have deleted the file. How do I get my data back? So now I'm going to show you how to restore the complete volume. So if your volume is corrupted, the data is lost, or whatever the reason, how do I get my data back at a snapshot level, right? So df-h. Now the MNT, I lost the data in the MNT is mean that I lost the data in the volume, correct? So first I don't want this volume because this volume does not have any data. Let me unmount this. Right now I don't need this volume, right? So I'll just go back to the AWS. I'll go to the volume section. This is the volume where I was using previously, and this volume is now having a corrupted data. Let's say I don't need this volume. I detach the volume, right? So let me wait for the detachment. Now the volume is back to the available state. I don't need this volume, so I can just delete the volume. Now you see the previously created volume is completely removed. Now what I can do is, from the snapshot I can create a new volume, guys. This is the snapshot, right? Select the snapshot and create a volume out of it. Just click on create a volume. Now you can see the same window. The only difference is this time I am creating a volume from the snapshot, so that in this snapshot what was the data taken as a backup, that data will be restored into the new volume that you are going to create now, right? So this is not a brand new volume. Of course this is a brand new volume, but the volume is getting created from your snapshot. That's the difference now, right? So let me do a cancel for now. Usually when you are creating a new volume, by clicking on a create volume, you see that snapshot option is not there. That means this is a brand new raw volume. Now I don't want to create a brand new raw volume. I need to create a volume from the existing snapshot, so that I'll be getting the same data, correct? So select the snapshot and then create a volume. Now specify the size, specify the availability zone, and create a volume. The volume is created. So this is the brand new volume, guys, and this volume now I need to attach back to the server. So while you are creating a new volume from the snapshot, it need not to be the same type. We can change the volume type as well. Okay, not a problem. Once that attachment is done, just come back to the server. You see I have got the disk back again, but don't get confused, the name is same now, but this is the new disk. Now tell me, guys, in the chat window, usually when I provision a new volume, first we need to run a mkfs command to format it, then we need to mount it. Now should I run mkfs? No. mkfs is usually format the disk. That means it will wipe off the existing data. In this case we should not run mkfs because the volume is already having the file system structure in it. All what we need to do is just directly mount it. Let's say I'll mount it on maybe /data, not a problem. Now go to /data and just look for the data and just look for the data. You see my data is still safe. So this is the exercise that I'm showing, that how do we take the snapshot of an volume and how to create a new volume out of the snapshot, and use the data again if there is a situation where your data is corrupted on the volume for some reason.
Hi, Pierre. When we take the snapshot, do we need to take it in the same zone, or can we select choose different zone?
Well, I think your question could be something different. Okay, while taking the snapshot, I don't see a option to choose the zone, but Later, when you are creating a new volume from the snapshot, yes, you need to create the zone information, right? So usually the concept is simple, right? Previously, my volume may be in 1C zone. I can take the snapshot. From the snapshot, I can create a volume in the another zone, not a problem. Because at the time of me creating a volume from the snapshot, it is asking you the option in which zone that you need to create a volume, the new volume, right? So we can choose any volume, right? So the condition here is the instance is in which zone. Your volume should be in the same zone, then only it is possible to do the attachment, or else no. That's only the condition. Rest can be anything. Now how I can use this concept in other ways? Maybe my question is, hey, as of now, I have created an instance in one zone and it has a volume. Now, for some reason, I want to migrate my volume to the another instance which is in another zone. How do you achieve it? This is a kind of a scenario-based interview questions, guys. All these things we need to build up, no, built up by yourself because there will be a multiple scenarios around it. Let's say it is in 1C, sorry. Let's say it is in 1C availability zone and I have a one more EC2 instance which is in 1D availability zone. Let's say I'm just building one scenario around it to understand it more clear. Okay, now for some reason I have a EBS volume created. The volume is currently created and attached to this server. Obviously the volume is in 1C, correct? Now my requirement is, how do I attach this volume to the another server which is in 1D? What are the steps, right? So obviously if the both servers are in same zone, I can just detach it and I can attach it here. But now the scenario is both servers are in different zone altogether, so I cannot just detach and attach here. So the steps are, first we need to take a snapshot, right? Then from the snapshot, create a volume in 1D zone, then attach that to the 1D zone EC2 instance, then we can just mount it. That's way we will be getting the same data into the another zone of EC2 instance. Like that, we can build the number of scenarios based on the requirement, guys. Well, now,
Thank you.
yes, Prasad.
Actually, we are one value. We are anything we stored in value. Is it updated on EC2 instance also?
Well, yeah, please be on mute, right? So we need to understand the way how it is working, guys. Okay, so your question is completely I mean to say, there is nothing like when we are storing the data into the volume. Let's say this is the volume where I have stored my file called f1. There is nothing like it is updating to the EC2, right? When you are mounting this into a particular directory, you can just start consuming the data and do the scenarios around it. So your statement is completely, maybe not putting into the correct format, because there is nothing like the data has to be updated at EC2 level. EC2 is just a set of processes where my OS is running, and it has to use the data, whatever the data that is available in the file system or the directory structure, that you can make use of it. And how do you get the data? Because of the volumes are attached. So just keep the data and just start using it. In other way, before I jump on to the another scenario, guys, I said that take your laptop as an example. I have an external USB hard disk. You attach the external USB hard disk to your system, your laptop, and store some data. Now you remove the USB hard disk. You attach the USB hard disk again to the new laptop. Is there anything like I need to update your data information to the laptop level, server level, instance level? Nothing like, right? So storing the data, consume the data. That is only the two things that we need to be focused on. Hope it is clear.
Here, one
Right.
question like
Mhm. Mhm.
so one question like so while creating a snapshot means like it's an actual volume we are creating or where it will create that snapshot.
Well, thank you. So it is a AWS internal thing. So as part of the shared responsibility model, we need not to worry about that. And maybe thanks for the question, because I need to give one more note here. When the AWS is taking this snapshot, obviously this is the backup, right? Let's say you have a file in your laptop. If you want to take the backup, you keep that file in your pen drive and keep the pen drive separately, so that if something has happened, we can connect the pen drive back and take the data, right? Same thing here as well. So if the AWS has to maintain the snapshot, they will be using the snapshot stored in the a different storage facility at their level. So what is the storage that is consumed from the AWS side? We need to pay for it. That means the snapshots are billable separately. As part of the free tier, you will be getting 1 GB capacity to store the snapshot. If your snapshots are consuming more than 1 GB capacity, it will be billable, guys. So if you have created a snapshot, don't forget to remove them. Okay, and where these snaps are getting stored is completely transparent for us. So AWS know how these snapshots to be stored in where, and they will calculate how much storage capacity is consumed to store this snapshot. Accordingly, the billing will be updated. But later I'll tell you exactly which concept that AWS is using to store this snapshot after I cover the one more AWS sessions. Now, the another key point, let's say I have a weekly backup schedule to take the snapshot. Yes, monthly I will be getting total 4 snapshots, right? It's not like today I taken a snapshot and I'll be using this every time whenever I want it. No. After the snapshot, your business is still running. Some data is getting updated on the original volume. Correct. So down the line, right, you will be having multiple snapshots, correct? So again, you should have a policy how frequently you need to clean up the snapshots, correct? So that means maybe down the line after 6 months time, you will be getting total 6 into 4, 24 snapshots will be there, 4 snapshots in a month. So you don't need that many number of snapshots, right, which is causing a unnecessary billing. Hardly if something goes wrong, I will be using the latest snapshot to restore it. So just keep only the last 2 snapshots. The previous snapshots has to be deleted. So that is how the old snapshots has to be deleted, guys. So this is how the operational job that will be triggered. Of course, later we can even see the automation strategies, how we can automate this, because it's not easy that you have to remember to take the snapshot and uh, delete the snapshot as per the frequency that you have in your project. That will be automated. And again, mostly you will not be involving into this kind of activities, you as a DevOps engineer. The AWS engineers will be taking care of these kind of activities, but having some knowledge about this is really a must. Now my problem is, I have created an EC2 server in the AWS and I logged into the server. I know some Linux commands. I know how to create some files, some adding some data, but what is the business value that it is generating? Obviously, right? When you are working for a company and company is paying for you, the company is getting a benefit out of it, correct? So how exactly these servers are generating the business? That is where I'm jumping on to the real world application. Okay, so that means now I have an EC2 server, the infrastructure is ready. I want to use this infrastructure to run my business. How the businesses are running, guys, in these days? Everything should be a web, correct? So let's take an example. I want to run a business using a website. Okay, so my goal is I want to run my business through a website. The website should be a e-commerce platform, should be a shopping portal, should be any other, right? Whatever I wanted to sell my business to the end user, that stuff I'm putting into my website. Through this website, the people can interact and can consume my services. That's my goal. So now my next thing is, how do I run this type of websites to run my business, and how I can use my infrastructure or a EC2 server to run these web services. By this time you have got an idea. Previously I talked about the SSH, right? I said that if you want to serve certain services to the users, you need to install a package. I think I'll take you guys to this flow. Right? If you want to serve certain services to the clients, you need to install the package. Then what? You need to understand the home directory, right? Home directory of the service that is getting installed, correct? Then we need to know how to do the configuration of the service. Then we need to start the services. When you start the services, you need to know the service is actually listening on which port number, correct? We have seen all these 5 in the SSH case, but only thing is the SSH package was already installed. What is the home directory of the SSH, guys? If someone know, can give me the answer in the chat window, right? It is etc SSH, right? That is where we can see the SSH related configuration file. And what is the configuration file for the SSH where I can do the customization? It is sshd_config, and we have started the service and the port number is 22. Now I want to serve the web services to the end user. That is my requirement, right? So to serve the web services to the client, I need to install the respective application. Here I am using the application called Apache HTTP Web Server. So this is the software that I'm using, right, to serve the web services to my clients. And this is the name of the web service. The package that I need to install to get this Apache HTTP web server is HTTPD. HTTPD is the package name that you need to install that will give you the Apache HTTP web server. The HTTPD will be installed in etc HTTPD, I think HTTP. Yeah, maybe I think this is the default home directory for this application, and it will have a configuration file called httpd.conf where you need to do some customization as per your need, and it will give you the HTTPD service. That is what we need to start, and the HTTPD service is listening on port number 80. Guys, so whatever the software that you are working on the Linux machines, these 5 points are very important. How do I install? What is the home directory of the application? What is the configuration file that I need to customize, the service name and the port number? Now let me get start installing this application and make use of this application to run my business. I'll go to the server. To do the package management, right, in the Linux machine, especially in the uh, Amazon Linux, Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, right, all these will work in the same fashion. the command that I am using will work in all these Linux flavors, guys. Yum is the package manager that I'm using to install the packages. The command is yum install, specify the package name. That's it. So this command will download the HTTPD package from the internet and will also be installing it for you. It is just asking your confirmation to proceed further. The beauty of the yum command is you have asked to install the HTTPD, but it is also installing some dependencies as well. Maybe to work with this HTTPD, it may need the other packages as well. So it is automatically calculating the dependencies and all of them are getting installed for you. Give the acceptance here. Now it is installing the Apache HTTPD web server. It's done. Once the application is installed, we can go to the home directory. etc httpd is the home directory for the Apache HTTPD web server. That is where you can see the Apache related, the config files. Under the conf folder, you can see my pwd. Under the conf folder, you can see httpd.conf. That is where we need to do the customization as per the requirement if you want to do some changes. For now, let it be the default configuration. I'm not doing any changes to this. Let it work as default. Now the next thing is the service, right? The service httpd start is the command to start the service, and let me verify the status. The httpd is the Apache HTTPD web server is now running. When it is in running state, now we know that it will be listening on the port number, right? Let me verify the port number here. Let's start -tupln. You can see that the port number 80 is currently listening by the httpd. Great. That means now my server is serving the web services through the port number 80 by this httpd service. Whoever want to consume my services, they will be hitting the port number 80, then the HTTPD will be responding back to them. Correct? Now, do I need to update this port number 80 in the security group? Yes, right? Because any request that comes to the server will be going through the security group. First, let me not update the security group. I'll try to access the services, guys. What I do is I'll just go to the EC2. Let me take this IP address. If you want to log into the server, you will be using a PuTTY, which is the SSH client. The PuTTY will allow you to log in. Same way, for any service, you will be having your own client. If you want to access the Apache HTTP web server services, your client is your browser only. So go to the browser, give the IP address. Remember, guys, I said that it's your responsibility to specify certain things when you are requesting some services from the client, from the server, correct? What I said, your responsibility to provide the protocol, which protocol that you wanted to use to send the request, correct? So that is where you need to specify the protocol name. This is the syntax, how you need to specify the protocol. Use the HTTP protocol to send the request. I want to send the request to the server to which port number? :80. So this is how we need to specify the request should go to which port number, guys. Then the HTTPD, which is running in the server, will respond back to you. But you don't see the response here because the security group is not updated. Correct. So now let me go to my server security group, and I need to update the inbound rules, add a rule, specify the type as HTTP. It automatically takes the port number 80 for you and allow this port from anywhere. Save the rule. Now the security group is allowing your connection, and the server side the port number 80 is also good. Now you try to access your web page and you can see the web page is loaded. You see guys the difference here. I'll go back to take this IP address. Take this IP. You see, I'm only giving the IP address in the browser and hit enter. Still, you are able to see your web page. What it is means, giving the protocol name, port number is optional. If you are not giving anything, you just directly use the IP. The browser will know that it has to send the request to which port, which protocol by default. So you need not to give the HTTP colon and the port number. Those are default. If you want to mention, not a problem, you can mention as well. So there is no harm in it. Great. So now Apache HTTP web server is installed and now it is working, and I'm able to get a website running from my server, guys. The only problem here is this is the default test base. This is not what I'm looking for, right? I need a website as per my requirement. And you can see, if you are the website administrator, you may now add the content to the directory /var/www/html. This is the default root directory where you need to keep your content, which content you wanted to serve to the users in the website. So how your website should be look like, the website related code, right, should be available in this directory. That is the default behavior of the Apache HTTP web server. Because I have not configured anything on this location so far, it is just giving you some test base. Now let's go ahead and put my customized page in this file. I'll go to this location where www.html, as of now nothing. I need to create a file, guys. Here the file name will be index.html. That is the default name that will be picking up by the Apache HTTP web server. So the file name should be index.html only. Inside that we need to keep the HTML code. The HTML code is the code that will be building the static websites to give you the front end pages. Now I'm putting some HTML code here. This is my website. So I'm just following some HTML syntaxes here to put the code here. But again, guys, you need not to worry about this HTML. It's the developer responsibility to develop the code and keep it here. Of course, at least they are responsible to develop it. For now, I'm just putting some lines here just to show you how the custom websites will be accessible. Now, if you try, you see your own website is came. Now, how the HTML code is written, right? How the developer has customized your website. Based on that, your website will be visible to the end user. So as of now, in my index.html, I just kept only one liner, and that liner is came here. But the developer can write a HTML code to show you this kind of a tabs, the background, the options, how the website has to be. Everything will be now developed by the developer, and that code will be put into that location, and that's how your websites will be visible, guys. In this, If I talk about the roles and responsibility, you are a DevOps engineer responsible in creating an EC2 server, installing the Apache HTTPD web server software, make sure that the security groups are updated properly, make sure that the end users are able to access the web page. It's the application developer responsibility to develop the HTML code or any programming language that they are using, right? It's their responsibility to develop the code. Whatever the code that they have given, that code should be in the respective location where my Apache HTTP web server is looking for. That's it. So the code that is given by the developer, you need to keep that code into this location, guys, and it will start working. We don't need to worry about what is this code, how the code is been written. Simply, if you want to do some practice, you don't need the HTML language. You can even put some normal text file that is automatically assumed that that has to be displayed there. So this is my website. You see, I'm not using any HTML tags. That is still fine. It will still be working. You see, it is working. Only thing is some bold and all not came because I'm not using any tags there, but that is still fine for us to do the practice. Good. So maybe this is the very basic Apache HTTP web server that I'm showing for you guys just to understand the business use cases. This is how we will be deploying the websites in our server and running the web services. The clients will access my web services. That's how my business will run through. Let's say service HTTPD stop. Do you think I can access this website? You see, the website is down. Why? The Apache HTTPD service is down on the server where this website was hosted. That's the reason. Correct. Now let me go back and start the service. Service HTTPD start. Now you see the website is back. So let's say guys, currently I am in var www.html because this is the default directory where my code supposed to be. That is what the Apache HTTPD web server is expecting. In this location, I created a file called index.html. So you can just use the IP address, your index.html file is loaded, correct? Why? That is the default behavior. When you are hitting on the server, it know that it has to pick up the file from the HTTPD, var www.html location. If you are having the code in something else, let's say I'm creating a file called login.html. Let's say you see I created a file called login.html. So the Apache HTTPD web server is designed to pick up only the index.html by default. So it won't pick up this file. If this file has to be loaded, you need to give that file explicitly by giving a slash and give the name of the file that you wanted to process. You see now slash login.html. Now your login.html file is loaded. Now you know the reason why I used the file name as index.html only, right? The index.html is the default pick for the from the application behavior perspective. If you are using any other name, you need to give that name explicitly. You need not give that var www.html here because by default the Apache HTTP web server will be looking into that folder only. In this folder only, it will look for the files by default. Good. Now my worry is, okay, now my worry is, I have taken an EC2 server and I have deployed my website. My website is working. The end users are able to access my website. They are able to consume my services. They are purchasing my products or whatever based on the business that you are deploying here. What will happen tomorrow? For some reason, my EC2 server gets terminated by mistake, or something has happened. My server gets terminated, or there is a corruption at a server side where my server is not at all operating normally. How easy or difficult, guys, to bring your EC2 server back up and running? Of course, if the server gets terminated or the server is crashed for some reason, I can create a new server, not a problem. But if I create a new server, do you think the softwares that I have installed, the code that I have put in, and other configuration changes that you have done will be still available on the brand new server? No, right? The brand new server that I'm creating will be a fresh server. We don't see all of them again. Again, you need to start installing them. Again, you need to start, uh, configuring them. And again, you need to load your code. All these things has to be done. No, I don't want to do that. I need a snapshot. Correct. If you have a snapshot, then it's easy to do the restoration whenever something is failed. Now tell me, guys, in the chart window, I have, right, your EC2 instance has a volume. This volume is called as a root EBS volume. Okay, this is called as a root EBS volume. The root EBS volume is holding the operating system data. If I talk about my Apache HTTP web server, let's say, what data is actually holding in the root EBS volume? /etc/httpd, that is there in the root EBS volume, correct? The the HTTPD service which is available in the root EBS volume only. That means whenever you have done some software installations, all the software installations are actually going to the root EBS only, that is related to the operations or system related processes. Correct. So now tell me, guys, do I need to take a snapshot of this root EBS volume, and whenever something goes wrong, I need to create a volume and restore it? Sometime back I did, right? I have taken a snapshot of a volume and I have deleted this volume and I created a new volume. That's how I restored my volume completely. Can I follow the same process now as well? Answer is no. Why? If it is a additional EBS volume that you used just to store only the data, right? Then I can create a new volume. I can delete this volume. I can create a new volume, possible. But here the problem is, this is the root EBS volume where my operating system is running. For some reason my server is hung or corrupted, so I cannot detach the root EBS volume and can create a new and attach the new one. Because when I detach a root EBS volume, how come my server will be working first of all? So it will not be happen. So the best way is, in this case, take the image backup. What is a image backup? So the entire server, usually the snapshot is the backup of a single volume, right? Backup is a single volume. So now I need to take the backup of the entire server. The entire server backup is called as a image backup. In AWS term, this is called as a AMI backup, Amazon Machine Image. Correct. I'll show you how to take the AMI now. Before I'm taking the AMI, I wanted to give you, thank you, be on mute. Usually guys, I just wanted to give you that service HTTPD status, it is running, right? If my server gets rebooted for some reason, do you think that this service will be back to running automatically? No, right? So this is the custom application that you installed. You need to tell everything how it has to behave. If you are expecting that this service has to be running automatically after the reboot, you need to enable that feature. If you want to enable that feature, you can use a command called a checkconfig httpd on. This command will just ensure that your service will be started automatically after the reboot. You can use the checkconfig httpd on, or you can use the systemctl enable. Both are same. The systemctl is the latest command, the checkconfig is the old command. Now I want to take the backup because I'm expecting that the server may go for the hung or go for the termination. So select the server guys, go to the actions, image the templates, and click on create a image. This is how you are taking the image backup of the server. What is the problem here? Give me a second, I'll just go back. So this is the server, and let me look into the storage just to see what is my current status. I have 2 volumes. Do I see? Well, let me try now. So select the server, go to image, create a image, right? Give the name of the image, let's say dpt 11:15:21. It's always a good idea to mention the timestamp when you are taking this backup. The description, this is the Apache HTTPD web server, and you see guys how many volumes are currently associated for your EC2. All of the volumes are considered in the image backup. Why? As I said, image backup is not just a one volume. This is the complete server backup. In your server, how many volumes are there? All of them are included by default. The first one is the root EBS volume, which is compulsory because this is a server side backup. The additional EBS volumes, if you want, you can take. If you don't want, you can just do this, the into symbol. That way, the additional volumes can be removed. But it's always good idea to have a complete server backup when you are taking a AMI. Click on OK. Now you see successfully created the AMI. Now if you go to the AMI option here, now you see the AWS is in the process of creating the AMI for you. This AMI is the complete backup of the currently running server. So if something happened to that, I can recreate automatically, easily. So even the AMI is also a concept of the snapshot in the backend, guys. If it is taking the AMI of your server, is mean that it is actually taking the snapshot in the backend. If you go to the snapshot section, you should be able to see the snapshots here after the AMI is completed. But the difference is, rather me creating a snapshot individually for each and every volume, the AWS will create it for you, and the AWS know exactly how to use those volumes to restore the complete server as a image format. It will take some while. Okay.
Unmuted.
So Please be on mute, guys. Thank you. So it may take some time, guys. Usually in the real time, it may even take right 1 hour. Right, once you initiate a AMI, it may take 1 hour time as well, sometimes in real time, based on the type of the data, amount of the data that it is holding in the server. But here I think so it will be done in a matter of 5 minutes because we don't have any much data in the server. So once this AMI is ready, I can create a brand new server with the same information, right? So while it is going on, I'm just taking a new session here just to show you the process. Let's say my server is got corrupted or someone has terminated or whatever the reason, right? When you are creating a new EC2 server, okay, LAN server, now this is the time to select the AMI, right? Rather me choosing the default AMI that is provided by the Amazon, I just go to this My AMI section. If you go to the My AMI section, you can see the AMIs that you have created some time back. Now we need to choose the AMI from this list. That is how we can create a new server with your customized AMI, which is pre-built in with your existing data already. That's how when you create a new server with this customized My AMI, then your new server will get Apache HTTP web server, and the web services that you configured, all of them will be, come by default. You need not to do any more configurations once it is been deployed from this AMI. While it is going on, guys, there are two use cases with the AMI section. One, if the current servers are corrupted or terminated for some reason, we can restore it with the AMI. That is one use case. The second use case is every company has their own standards, right? Let's say, hey, when you are creating a new server, these are the 10 checklists that you need to follow. Maybe by default, every server should have this username. By default, every server should have Apache HTTPD installed. By default, every server should have this kind of custom configuration. Like that, every project has their own custom settings, what needs to be done on the server. Usually, when you create a new server with the AWS provided AMI, you don't get that project specific custom settings, right? You need to configure all of them by logging into the server. You need to create a user, set a password, install the software, all of them you need to do one by one. Rather, you do all this in one server and take the AMI, keep the AMI ready. Later, I'll ask you, hey, the process is whenever you are creating an EC2 instance, please use this AMI. That way, the AMI will bring you all the necessary default settings that are needed for your project to your new server. So you need not to spend time in configuring them in every time when you create a new server. Correct? That is how there are two use cases why we need to use the custom AMIs, guys. Look like my AMI is ready. I can now create a new server. I'll go to my AMI, select the AMI from this. Now the rest of the details are as is, right? So let it be the same. You see here, the storage section, by default, you can see 2 volumes. Why? The AMI is actually, right, holding 2 volumes information. This is the custom AMI that I have taken. Maybe I just need to allow the port number 80. Correct. So review and launch the server, select the key pair, and that's about it. So here I have deployed an EC2 instance from the custom AMI. The expectation is This server should get my Apache HTTP web server pre-configured. I don't need to install it again in this server because this is deployed from my custom AMI. While it is coming, guys, tell me in the chat window, in real time, when you are creating an EC2 instance, obviously 100% you will be choosing custom AMI only. You are not creating a servers from the default AMI provided by the AWS, right? Because that is the plain AMI which does not have any configuration related to your project. So there will be one standard AMI which is created already that you need to use every time when you create a new server. That AMI is called as a golden AMI. Usually in office, right, the people will call the name as golden AMI. Golden AMI in the sense the AMI which is already created and kept ready, right, which is holding all the necessary configuration for your project. That is called as a golden AMI. You need to use that golden AMI and start deploying your EC2 instances. Of course, the golden AMI created by someone, right, with all the things are pre-configured in it. Right. So I think the server is done. This is the IP that I have got it for this new server. Now, if I go to the browser and try to access it, you see my website is live. I have deployed a new server, guys. Did I log into the server to do something? No. I am able to access my website. How it is possible? Because the HTTP server is already installed and code is already kept in, and already the service is configured to start automatically after the reboot process. So the moment when the server is deployed from the custom AMI, your website is live just like that. Right. So I think that is the story for today, guys. Right. We talk about, right, some important scenarios today, which is covering the instance store volume, EBS volume, AMI creation process, the snapshot creation process of the individual volume level, and the package installation process as well. If any questions for now, please do let me know.
Snapshot of current AMI, just whether it is great.
If you come back to the snapshot section here, right, we can see the snapshots are created due to the AMI. You see, my instance has 2 volumes, and I have got 2 snapshots are automatically created. These 2 snapshots are created by a create image operation. I just asked to create an image. Internally, it has created the snapshot of the both volumes that are available in the server, and it even allow you to deploy the new server as a image format. The difference is if you create a snapshot individually for each volume, you cannot restore the complete server. You can only create a volume and attach. But if you want to create a new server altogether, it should be in the image format. That is where the AMI has to be created. It in turn use these volumes in the snapshots in the backend to create the volumes accordingly.
I have one question. Is there any use case for taking a snapshot of directly of just the root EBS volume? Is there any reason why no one would want to do that?
I would say yes. Okay. I would say yes, probably, mostly, right? To do some troubleshooting, you will be taking the snapshot of the root EBS volume. I'll tell one scenario when this troubleshooting will happen. Okay, so maybe the file system is corrupted. A single file system is corrupted where the system is not operational. Maybe the other way, your AWS key pair is lost. Without key pair, we cannot log in, right? For some reason, my AWS key pair is lost. What I can do? Correct. So maybe I can take a root EBS volume snapshot, So I can take this root EBS volume snapshot. Now I got the snapshot. This snapshot I can attach. It's worthy to have a new window here. This is the EC2 instance, guys, and this is the another EC2 instance. And the first EC2 instance is already having a root EBS volume, right? This is the root EBS volume. For some reason, there is a corruption in the root EBS volume. Of course, if you have the AMI, we can directly restore. But take a scenario that you don't have any AMI as of now, but the root EBS volume is corrupted. So I cannot create a brand new server now with the backup because I don't have any backup. If you take the AMI now, you will be getting the backup with the corrupted state only, correct? I cannot take the backup now also, and I don't have any pre-taken backups also. Now what is the solution? How do you fix it? So in that cases, you may need to take the snapshot of the root EBS volume. What I do is, this is the root EBS volume holding my operating system related data where some corruption or some changes needs to be done. And as of now, I'm not able to log into the server. I will be taking this root EBS volume snapshot. I'll take this as snapshot. From this snapshot, I'm going to create a volume. From this root snapshot, I'm going to create a volume. This volume I will be attaching to a new server as a normal disk. Okay, this is the root volume. This I'm going to attach to the new server as a normal volume. Maybe I will be mounting it as a MNT. Now the first EC2 server root volume, the first EC2 server root volume I am able to access in the second EC2 server under the MNT. We already familiar, right? The mount point is just a temporary. All what is important is the data that it is accessing on the volume. So the data that was there in this root volume is now available in the MNT location in the second server. Now I'll go to this MNT, I'll start fixing the issue. So I'll do some necessary changes to the configuration. I'll fix the issue. Once the issue is fixed, then from this fixed information, right? Once it is fixed, then I will be taking this volume backup, and again I'll be taking a snapshot from this because the issue is already fixed. From this snapshot, I'm taking one more volume, and this volume again I'm attaching to this server as a root volume. So this kind of troubleshooting only we will be taking a snapshot of the root EBS volume, or else you don't need to.
Hi, Pierre. For if I want to take a take a EC2 instance from a golden image, and do I have to does it have to be within the same region or same zone, or I can irrespective of any region or zone I can create an EC2 instance?
As of now, all the concepts, not only this specific AMI, as of now, all the concepts that I'm talking about are applicable within a single region. Whatever I'm talking will not be applicable in the across region as of now. I'll talk about that scope later, right? And as of now, yes, it is in the single region. In the region, yes, you can use that AMI to deploy the servers in any zone, not a problem.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Here, is it a prereq to while taking AMI, the EC2 instance should be stopped or it should be running?
There is no mandatory, right? So there is no mandatory rule that your server should be stopped. I think if you select the server, if you go to the create image option, you can see the option here, no reboot. If you do this check mark, your instance will not be rebooted during the image creation process. If you don't do this check mark, then your server will be rebooted during the AMI process. It's very important to note this option. Okay. Now coming back to your question, there is no mandatory rule that the server should be stopped, but if you have the opportunity to stop, it's better to stop and take the AMI so that your AMI will be very clean. But in real time, right, it's not possible. Why? The server is already running, the business is going on, right? The people are accessing the web services. If you stop the EC2 server, your business is stopped. So usually you will not get opportunity to stop the server to take the AMI in the real time. That's the reason at least we will identify the best time when I can take the snapshot. Usually the people will take this kind of AMIs maybe a Sunday midnight, maybe Saturday midnight, where they see that the less number of people are accessing the website, right? That time they will pick up and they will take the AMI during that time because they cannot stop the server because that will stop the businesses.
Right. So why I asked?
Sorry, you can unmute yourself again.
So why I asked raise this question is like while taking AMI backup from the actual EC2 instance, the applications are dynamically getting the data, right? So how that updated data is captured in backup AMI? That's what.
I get that. That's for reason. If you really see there is a huge IO is going on the server, obviously the AMI that you are taking, right, may not be in a good state. So it's recommended to stop and take the AMI. But wherever that is not possible, at least try to take the window where there is a less business operations. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you.
If you really think it is a mission critical IO is going on, my AMI may get corrupted because of this. Yes, you need to stop it.
Thank you.
But usually you don't get that kind of a situation because AWS is intelligent in it. Okay. Usually when you initiate a AMI process, right, first it will go and pick up the plan. It will prepare the plan, right? What files has to be taken into the backup, what configuration has to be taken into the backup. The plan will be ready. After the plan is ready, then it start taking the backup. So once the plan is ready, then during the backup time, if any new file is gets updated, that will not be considered. So that way you don't see any kind of the corrupted AMIs will be created because of that running instance, not a problem. Right. So I think if you see guys, the way how I'm not dealing AWS separately, Linux separately, right? Of course it is not even possible to do that from my side at least. I'm just doing some kind of a mixing, right? So now even today I talk about the Linux concepts as well as the AWS concepts. That's how these two going in parallel, right, for some time. So answering to Emmy, right, maybe the things will be mixed up. Down the line I'll bring up the DevOps as well. DevOps, Linux, AWS will go in parallel. Of course, first we'll cover about the prerequisite that we need, then we'll be jumping on to the DevOps that is there. But again, right, so it's not like we completely done with AWS, then we move on to the DevOps. I think that will not happen because every day we need to create infrastructure, we need to log into the OS, then we need to install the DevOps tools. These three are right linked together. But I know there are trainers who are actually can deliver these in separately, but I'll do mostly as a the mixed kind. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is regarding the file systems. So when we mounting the drive, how do I know that this is a XVDA file or this is a XVDF file or file system?
So that means you need to understand the mapping, right, from the OS side to the AWS side. or let's say if I go to the server, if I do the mount /dev /xvdf/data, let's say. Now tell me, what is your question?
So my question is, while mounting the new drive, how do I know which is a file system, that XVDF or XVDA?
You know, right? So the LSBLK will give you a list of devices with the naming convention. So whatever the name that you see, that is the name of the disk that you allocated, and you can see the size as well here. What name that it is given for you, that name we need to use to create a file system even at the time of mounting it as well.
So when we attach the hard disk, it will automatically list the names, file system names.
Correct.
Okay. Is it possible to take AMI from the snapshot?
No.
Not possible.
Well, guys, I think thanks for your time today. I hope you have got a wonderful session today, right, regarding the volume concept.
Pierre, I just have one question. When mentioning the path like the index.html or the login.html, so index.html is a default page, right? Only if it's other than some other
Correct.
HTML file, then we have to mention that in the. No.
Correct. That is true. And again, right, in real time, right, how that is the developer scope. Let's say here I'm just running the website and I'm getting the page. Definitely this page comes from the index.html. So there may be other files as well, but we need not to give that files explicitly here. Whenever you click something, the developer know, right, how that has to be redirected. Accordingly, your endpoint will be changing here. You see, it is going to the different location. So that redirection all will be taken care by the developer. So you don't need to do any more custom location has to be given in the website when you are trying to browse here, right, usually. But I'm just explaining the concept wise. By default, it picks the index.html to give you the home page. Then the index.html file code is written such a way that if someone is hitting on something, how that has to take the other dependency files, whatever has to be loaded using the links that they have in the code level.
Yeah, got it, Pierre. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Pierre. Hello, Pierre.
Yes.
Yeah, a small question. Generally, developers give you the complete package of the development, right? Like, RAR file or WAR file. So how do we deploy that? Directly we deploy into the HTML folder?
Mm-hmm.
In the Apache
As
server?
As of now, I did not come to the WAR concept yet. Okay.
Oh,
the WAR we cannot deploy into our Apache HTTP web server. The Apache HTTP web server is just for this kind of the HTML templates. So whenever you are doing the WAR deployment, we need to go to the Apache Tomcat. So slowly we'll jump onto the Tomcat level. There we see how we can do that WAR level concepts.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Right. The Apache HTTP will not support for the WAR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just have to unzip or unvar that file and deploy it in there as a files or folders starting with the index HTML or something, whatever it is.
Correct.
Right? Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Pierre. Suppose I did not take an instance backup and that instance got corrupted. So how to take the AMI of that?
You cannot. Okay. If you don't have a AMI already and your instance is corrupted, right? You cannot take the AMI now. If you take the AMI now, you get the corrupted AMI, right?
Okay.
You get me? So the AMI should be in the when the server is in healthy state. That time you should have been taken the AMI. Then at that I can use when your server gets corrupted. I can just use the AMI to restore it. If you don't have the AMI, if the server is already corrupted, so you cannot take the AMI now, right? That will give you the corrupted AMI. That is the reason I talk about this process. Maybe if you think it is something can be fixable by going to that root EBS volume, then we can then we can take that root EBS volume. Then we can take the root EBS volume snapshot, create a volume, attach that volume as a normal volume to the other server, then see what data is there in that volume. If possible, try to fix that configuration changes wherever you wanted to, then create a new volume again, then put that volume back to the first server. So if you think this is the process works for you, we can. If you think this process is also not working, then we cannot do anything with the corrupted machines. We need to rebuild it again. So right, so answering to Rajesh, Tomcat, Nginx, both are two different things.
Hi, Pierre. Using that use case, just you show us about the root volume. So once we fix that root volume, how do we attach a root volume to that EC2, or do we need to actually attach it as a secondary volume?
Same thing, the way how I attach any other normal volume, same method. So let's say here, this is the server where I need to attach a root volume, correct? Let's say you just need to stop the server. Obviously, the running server, I cannot change the root volume. Okay, so again, this much level of things will handle by the AWS side. Mostly you will not get into this kind of the deeper AWS administrative activities as a DevOps engineer again. But you know, right, the delivery will be later, right? You should be able to work as a DevOps side or a AWS side. Both I'm trying to cover as much as possible. Okay. So you see the server is stopped now. Okay. So the server is stopped now. If you see the server in the storage section, currently it has a root EBS volume XVDA, correct? So the XVDA, this is the root EBS volume. Now let's say this volume I don't want because this is corrupted. I need to have a new volume that is already fixed by some process. So this volume I don't want, right? So this volume has to be detached because the current root volume I don't need, right? So the current volume is detached. What happened? Why? The instance is already stopped. We should be able to. Let me try again. So this has to be detached and we can attach a new one. That's it. Maybe the instance is not yet stopped. Okay, let me go back and see the status of the instance. Remove the running filter. You see, it is still stopping mode. That's the reason it is not allowing me. Once it is stopped, right, I can remove that root volume and attach a new volume. That's it. The only difference is here I'm stopping the server. Why? It is a root volume. If it is a additional normal volume, I can just detach and attach a new one when the server is up and running itself. So you see, now the server is stopped. Okay, now I can just go to the storage section The current root volume I don't need, so select the volume, let's say detach the volume. It is done. Now my server don't have any root volume. Now let's say you got a new volume, select the new volume and attach a volume. It's completely done. Let me refresh. Yeah, now let's say you got volume. The new volume you need to attach to the server. The only precautionary that you need to do is the name of the device. Let's say you take the server here, the name, right? It should be SDA. If you give any other name, that is treated as a normal data volume. The root volume must be having a SDA naming convention. That is how it is designed, right? So when you are attaching a volume that should be used by the server as a root volume, the name should be SDA. That is only the precautionary step that you need to do. I think it is not even SDA, it is XVDA. That is the name of my root volume, right? So ensure that you use the same name, then that's done. When you start the server now, the XVDA disk is considered as a root volume and that will be used to boot up. Hope it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So down the line, when I'm giving some assignments, right? Maybe you can use these concepts as your underscore to work on the assessment. That's how you'll get a more clarity as well. Thank you guys for your time today. We'll regroup tomorrow. Please do complete your assessment and put the comments there and reach out to me if you have any issues. Even you can use the DevOps Tech Talk portal as well to post your questions there. I'll be answering to them. Also, you can use the question tracker as well. You can put the questions there. Those questions will be discussed during the Friday sessions. Thank you. We have a lot of options there, guys, for getting the support. How much extent you utilize these services, that equally that much effectively you get the response as well. Thank you.
Thank you.